Trying to understand how it all started to go wrong, but the sea is way too deep. Yeah, it's too.
Hey guys, what's happening? It's Meshi with Path to Wellness with Meshi. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. Well, another month has gone by, clearly, as you're watching this in February. So naturally, we are going to be diving into my monthly favorites for the month of January. First of all, let's just get over the fact. Are you over it? I'm not sure. Can we get over the fact that January has passed on by? It's gone like the wind. And kind of thank God for that, because honestly, January is cold. You know what I mean?
It starts getting cold, and we don't know any way out of here. We're trying to understand.
Like, I really don't want you to kind of dwell on the fact that January is finished, because really, that means that February is coming. And that's kind of cool. And we can't go wrong with that. So if you wanted to see all of my favorites, my mindset shifts, and everything that went awesome possum for the month of January, then just stay tuned and let's get started with the video. In no particular order, I will just grab my handy dandy note because otherwise it's going to be a hot mess. Let me just tell you that. Can you tell how prepared I am, or just simply, can we just acknowledge the fact that not everything actually fits on this little table? Yes, we can. Good job. Okay, well, let's start with beauty, which has always seemed to be like almost everybody's favorite when we're talking about monthly favorites. Let's begin with what was awesome sauce for January when it comes to beauty. And I haven't really tried too many brand new products out for beauty products, I will say that, but I did get a chance to try, and I've been like lusting over this for quite some time. I tried out a few products from Colourpop. They did briefly carry it at Sephora for a little bit, and I bought their little palette. I forget the name, but I'll just pop a picture of it here so you can take a look. And I really enjoyed the quality of the eyeshadows, so I said, well, you know what, why not? They had a sale on, so let's just go for it. So I have picked up their little eyeshadow palette. This one is called, this is a collaboration. This is called Femme Rosa, and it's called She. And I will show you like a close-up of like all of the colors so you can take a look. The next palette that I picked up is called Sweet Nothings, and then the last one is called Fame. And you have like a nice combo between matte and shimmery shades in all of them. They're for the most part, both of these seem to be following like a purple and like a rose type of theme happening, and this one is a little bit more cool tone, which I kind of prefer. Like, you have some of the darker shades, you do get some mattes in there, and you do get some shimmery shades. I am wearing it on my eyes today, and honestly, quality from Colourpop is always going to be bang on, and the price is just a little bit more affordable than if you end up shopping at Sephora for the most part. And I also picked up a couple of their little Color Shock shadows, and with Color Shock Shadows, I thought that this is just like their famous boom, like you buy these singles, and this one actually ends up being the Super Shock Shadow, and it's ultra glittery, which I don't know, I don't want to say that I regret it. Like, it's a beautiful shade, and I will show you a close-up of the swatch, but honestly, I don't really wear a lot of glitter. I'm not really a massive fan of glitter. I like metallic shades if I really want to amp up if I want to intensify the look that I'm creating, then I would use something like this. It's really nice, and and it has like the most interesting texture. So if you've never had a chance to try Colourpop shadows, they're fairly inexpensive, so I would highly recommend at least trying them. Then the other shade that I have, it's called Ritz, and this is again a super shock. Try saying that 20 times in a row. Super Shock Shadow, it's an ultra metallic shade as well, and really, really pretty in the pen. Again, I'm really into like the whole taupey vibe, but I don't know, like every time I put it on, it just seems super shimmery. Not shimmery, it seems super glittery. I think that's sort of where I'm still kind of playing around with it, but I definitely enjoy them, and I'm like no regrets, and you can't beat the price. So loving that. And Speaking of Colourpop, at the same token, I also picked up their, so they started carrying Fourth Ray Beauty, and Fourth Ray Beauty is a skincare company. They're basically cruelty free, and I believe they're also vegan. This is their little trio. It's called Into Deep Deep Nourishment Trio, and it comes with a little jojoba oil. It also comes with marula oil, and also it has a Skin Hero. The Skin Hero. So let's just take a look. Basically, marula oil has vitamin C, and so it's rich in vitamin C and E, and tons of antioxidants. Jojoba oil obviously has vitamin E and B complex, and also balances the sebum production. And then Skin Hero is a mix of argan, bibob. I'm gonna call it bibob. I will just pop the name of it here. We're not going to butcher it today. And strawberry seed oil. So it's a blend of 3 different oils that you can use. It's basically a skin serum. And honestly, given that even as we speak, we're getting dumped on like 1,000,000 pounds of snow, you definitely need the nourishment. I mean, my skin, like usually when they tell you about like skin serums and things like that, they're all like, oh yeah, just once a week. I'm sorry, we are not going to be pulling that off. I literally use this twice a day, morning and evening, on top of my moisturizer, because I'm sorry, but at this point, water-based moisturizers, you can go home. You can just, you know what I mean, go on vacation for the next little bit, because you're just not doing it for me. And if I'm just using coconut oil, like, it helps, but coconut oil on its own I find it as a skin moisturizer is pretty greasy. So this is sort of like the happy medium where you sort of pat it into your skin, allow it to absorb. And I always notice a difference the next morning. And honestly, this was like $20. Like, you can't even beat the price. So highly recommend that you try it out. If you're looking for just something new and natural for your skin, it's worth trying it out. Let's move on to, what are we moving on to? Let's move on to some of the bullet journaling supplies. So here's the thing. If you have no idea about this whole story with the New Year's Eve thing, so most of you were like, yeah, New Year's Eve, let's party. And I was like, yeah, it's raining out. Let's go to Michael's and just shop and buy some seriously awesome craft supplies. So therefore, naturally, I picked up like a little kit of Tombow pens. These are the pastel colors. These are just some of the ones that I found. They are beautiful. So you will actually see these guys in action in my next Plan With Me video, which may be coming out this week because February is coming. So you know what I mean? But so I will show you these guys in action because we want to play with colors, because we want to take charge of our coloring action here. And honestly, I literally was just looking for something different and something new. So I embraced my inner, I almost said inner goddess. That's not really what I mean. I wanted to embrace my little inner hunger for color. So I picked up a bunch of washi tapes also from Michael's, and super, super cute. And honestly, it adds like a tiny bit of a pop of color. I've been finding that like it just makes a big difference when you're actually creating your full spread in your bullet journal, because sometimes that's all you need is just little pops of color, and then it just, you know what I mean? You don't have to like make it into like an art piece for it to really look cute and inspiring. And the other thing that they had on sale, which I thought was like brilliant, and I have found at least about 3 different uses for it ever since I picked it up, is I found these tiny little stamps. So again, these little stamps, I actually use them in my crafting projects, which I will talk about next. But I also use them to just stamp out certain words or like little reminders. They're just so much fun. It cost me like $1.50, $1 or $1.50. Like they had it on clearance, and it looks like a hot mess. But if you have like these little containers from IKEA, they're perfect to keep. And then you just kind of have to play with the letters for a little bit so that you can kind of write out whatever you want. Speaking of crafts, so I've been resisting this whole crafting thing for quite some time, and I find that every single time that I sort of lean in to crafting or lean in just a little bit more and allow myself that time and that space where I can actually focus on one craft project at a time, I've always been so much happier. And unfortunately, that's definitely a learning process for me because I don't really take the time as much as I would like to. So I bought some molding clay and some polymer clay. We had a birthday party at one of the art studios in December, and honestly, I didn't care too much for clay. Like if you had asked me like, hey, would you like to like sculpt something, I would have been like, no, you can go home now. But honestly, I got into it. It was lots of fun painting it and, just really creating literally something out of absolutely nothing or just a big blob piece. It was quite fun. So I bought some molding clay at the dollar store, and I also bought some polymer clay. The difference between the two is one of them is water-based. The other one is plastic based, so it just doesn't dry out, which means that for like crafting projects, it's a little bit better. And then you can get like all kinds of fun colors. Kids love it, easier to mold with it. That's all I'm going to tell you about that. So I made like this little tray, which some of you might be like, this looks weird. But honestly, I added like a little unicorn horn in the middle, and then there's like a tiny cute little mushroom here. And I've been using this just to like, you can just take your ring off and then you just put it like right in the middle. I always wanted just a little tray where you can just keep your jewelry, and then that just started like a whole other conversation with my children. So if you're looking for new projects and you're into art, lean in, my friend, lean in, because your body and your mind will thank you. Moving on to mindset shifts. Actually, let's talk about books first, shall we? Because I actually have it right in front of me and it's just kind of staring at me. So yeah, I usually am really good with like, heading over to chapters, picking up a couple of books and being really excited about it. This one was a little bit different. Most of my focus was actually on training for the half a marathon. If you're not familiar with this whole journey, I have been documenting my running journey for quite some time since it actually started. So I can just link the full series down in the description so you can check it out. But I was mainly getting ready for running, so I didn't really take a whole lot of time for me to read. Now I was reading and I was listening to a couple of audiobooks, which I will talk about because they are like mind-blowing. But the one book that I really got into, and for the life of me, I cannot seem to be taking it back at the very moment, because at this point, the library is basically ready to send the FBI out into my house so that they can pick up this book. And the book that I'm talking about is How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. If you have not heard of this book, it's an excellent read. And honestly, I think that this is sort of why I'm having such a tough time taking it back, because I'm keep going back and I'm keep getting drawn into the story, and I'm keep like, oh, we need to need you more. So I'm pretty sure that I'm actually going to be buying this book. It kind of talks about the relationship that people have with their phones, but then also talks a little bit deeper about the psychology of how we're basically training our minds in a way, and we're creating a culture when we're actually more disconnected because of our phones, and because we're relying too much on our phones for it to provide the connection that we so very much crave as humanity. So it's a little deep, but it's not deep, but it kind of gives you step-by-step guide of how to really create a healthier boundaries and a healthier relationship with your phone, so that it does not take, you're not basically dependent on that dopamine release that gives you that quick hit when you check your phone for an email or a text or any of the social media accounts. And it kind of goes into how each of those apps are sort of designed to not only overwhelm your brain, but then it's also designed so that at the right moment, it gives you that next little hit, so to say, because it gives you that engagement, or like whatever, like if you're in Instagram, for example, it gives you that quick engagement of, it kind of lumps together like all the likes or all the engagement in your social accounts. And that, again, it has that ability for your brain to release that little bit of dopamine so that it keeps you hooked. And then it creates an addiction. And then after that kind of goes into like, it also creates an addiction with our children, because then they also kind of follow along whatever we're setting them, really. So I've been enjoying the book. It also has some book recommendations at the very back for kids of how to really limit screen time, which I'm placing a large focus on this year because I really want to take that control back of what my children are doing each and every day, because honestly I really don't want them to just kind of get lost in the cyber world and then they have no idea how to socially interact. They don't know how to use creative play. And I felt myself, and I think that I also posted about that yesterday actually, that it just, when you have anxiety and overwhelm, it's so easy to just kind of step back and see like what are the elements that are completely contributing to your anxiety. And it has absolutely 100%, I can attest to this because it has contributed to such high levels of overwhelm for me. That's all I wanted to say about that. It's an absolute must read. I will not only finish this book, but I will probably reread it a few times because it's so important and it's so relevant right now as we're really moving into the age. And I mean, the irony is that you are watching this on one of the social channels. But the thing is that I think that you really need to be careful about what you're actually exposing yourself to and how does that environment really look like. And the more aware you become, the more you can take that control back on controlling that environment. If you're not picking up any other books, if you're not making any other New Year's resolutions this year, let this be one of them, where you create healthier boundaries and a healthier relationship with your devices, with your phone, with your computer, where really you stop hiding and then you start actually living by design, which is sort of what we're talking about here in many different ways. So, loving the book. The next book that I was actually listening to, and again, this is a re-listen and reread. I did buy the physical book, but I was actually listening to the audio version of that same book while I was running. Oh, the irony here. So originally, when I heard about Rachel Hollis, I was quite intrigued. And I always thought, of course, my ego speaking, oh yeah, of course, I can totally do that. So she briefly mentioned that, like, if you're not familiar with Rachel Hollis, she has wrote the book called Girl, Wash Your Face. Very, very popular book. And most women are super into it because it just really helps reiterate of just stop making excuses for not living the life that you truly want to, and really start showing up for the very things that you said that you would show up to, and stop letting yourself down. And when I heard that message, it resonated even as we speak. As I say this, I have goosebumps. But the reason why it resonated so much is because that was ultimately my message for you as well, to just really start taking charge of your life. And in me saying that out loud, I realized that I needed to go first, and I really wanted to step into that role of taking charge of my own life, creating my life by design, and really showing up and doing the work, whether that was showing up for my runs, showing up for my workouts, showing up for the projects that I said I would do, and then just creating those big dreams, even if they scared me. So that was sort of the initial hit with Rachel Hollis. And she mentioned that when you have a chance, you should actually run a half a marathon at Disney. And I thought, well, I don't like running, so naturally, why don't we sign up for that? So this is sort of the initial inspiration, so to say, to actually run a half a marathon. I'm so glad that I did. And while I was running, I was actually listening to her audiobook, reiterating everything, that it was just like a beautiful completion. So Rachel Hollis, if you are watching this, I'm sure you're not, but if you are, I wanted to thank you for being the inspiration for all of us, and just keep rocking it out. The next book that I wanted to talk to you about, I've had this for a while. Again, it was one of those things that I've been resisting for quite a while, so naturally, you know that it's going to be a good one. I bought, the moment that it came out, it's so hilarious. So the moment that it came out, Gabby Bernstein released her new book, Judgment Detox. And I bought it. And I thought, oh my gosh, they had it at Costco. Well, then naturally we're going to buy it. I read not even the first chapter, and then I put it down. I said, not right now. And then I bought the audio version of it. And then right now I'm at a point where we're going through tapping. So, oh my gosh, the most powerful. I mean, I can't even. Basically, we're talking about judgment, but judgment to others and judgment to yourself. And if you actually take the time, listen to the exercises and do the exercises wholeheartedly, something will shift. Something will shift because you're not only affecting your nerve endings, you're affecting your neurology and your mindset. And basically, we're working with really positive energies so that we're creating more positive changes in our lives. But the way that we're doing that is by allowing the negative to sort of come up and hold it against truth. It's one of the most powerful books that I've read, and I'm sort of taking my time to read it because I want it to land. I'm really reframing the whole, let's just read a book for the sake of reading a book. There's no, I don't think that there is like a book police that keeps track of how many books you're reading. I think it's actually more important that you read a book, let their message land, allow that to really apply it to your own life, and then move on to the next one. So I kind of slowed down my roll on how many books I'm reading, and I'm allowing it to really land the way that I want it to. So those are my 3 book recommendations. They were all excellent, and that sort of ties into the mindset shifts that took place this month, because it really, like, especially when it comes to judgment, I really realized I really wanted to address judgment. Even though I'm not as judgmental as I used to be, it kind of doesn't matter. I really wanted it to just work through some of my own personal judgments in a way that it actually heals, and I reframe how I look at people and places and situations so that I don't look through the same negative lens that I used to. And that was sort of my big thing. And actually that ties me into the question of the day. I would love to know if you have struggled with judgment for others or for yourself, and what was the one thing that has helped you? I would be really interested to find out. This is all I wanted to share with you guys. I mean, there's also there could always be more and more and more, but why would we do that? We're not gonna do that. Thank you so much for sticking with me and for joining me. I so appreciate this. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. You can give me a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video. It gives you the notification bell so that it actually notifies you every time I release a video. I usually release a video here 3 times a week. I shoot for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and once on the weekend, and I kind of go into a few different topics. Sometimes we talk about green beauty products, other times we talk about zero waste lifestyle and how we can reduce our waste consumption. Other times we just talk about anxiety and overwhelm, which is so important to take care of your mental health. And other times we just sit down and we just bullet journal because that's just what we feel like doing. So because we kind of go into a few different topics throughout the week, you might not know what's coming up next. So to help you out, what I have done, because I wanted to be respectful of your time, I usually release a recap email every single Sunday where I give you some of the best takeaways from each of my videos. And I also give you the schedule for the following week. If you wanted to sign up, I made it completely free, complimentary, make your life easy. Link is down in the description. And in the meanwhile, keep shining, you guys. Keep seeking, keep being intentional about how you create your life, because you're so much more powerful than you think. And I will see you guys again in my next video. Bye.